Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Welcome in, divers. I think we have a whole lot of fun stuff here. I know it's the business part of the NFL. I know most of you are focused, or maybe you're not, on the Super Bowl upcoming. Don't worry, before we sign off, Travis and I will go ahead and give a quick shout out to what we think is going to happen in the big game, such that it is in the anniversary of the worst, or I should say the rematch of the worst offensive play call in the game's history. But enough about that. First of all, I said what I said, Travis Owens, but enough about that. Listen, always waiting in the comments are our loyal divers, in this case, Radius, kicking things off. By the way, make sure you check out Travis D. Holmes on the Win NFL podcast, where he talks to our guy Radius. There, make sure you take a shout out to that. And of course, Zenith in the comments. I think we answered at least one of his questions in the grab bag as well. We see you waiting there, Zenith. Appreciate you in there. And listen, no spoilers, Zenith. Do we got to see a domino fall like Travon getting extended before we can see stuff like Boyd? Oh boy, we'll get into all of that later. But first of all, champion, well, I don't know if I actually said hi to you beyond our little intro there, but I know we've talked a lot about the fitness of certain players, but something I think we touched on, and we mentioned it even in the shorts out there on the now 1,000+ subscriber Duval Dive YouTube channel. That's right, we're YouTube partners, so please help us perpetuate so we could do more good things for you. That would be awesome. But we've mentioned the increased salary cap, potential impacts, all those things. Whispers of who might get all sorts of franchise. There's a lot of directions we're going tonight. I mean, I'm just going to ask you, man, where do you want to even start out at this point?
But we got the big news from this week that kind of helped the Jaguars in a lot of ways. I mean, the fact that the NFL confirmed that the new increased salary cap, being over that $300 million mark, results in the Jaguars only quote unquote being $9 million under the cap. If you believe in spot track, then you're $9 million under the cap. If you believe in over the cap, then they have it at negative $11 million. Wherever you want to split that, baby, depending on where the dead cap numbers hit.
That's right.
You're a lot closer to being back at even, to be able to make some real moves and make some real transactions for this Jaguars organization to be like in the positive, basically. That's the gist of all of this. So we had the salary cap conversation on Sunday's Duval Dive, kind of discussing why some of the Jaguars may not necessarily be as tight to the cap as folks may think. But on the other side of that coin, it doesn't mean that they have so much space, because even despite those moves, as we talked about on Sunday's Duval Dive, they still would be realistically a bottom 7 to bottom 8 NFL team in salary cap space, if with the amount of space that everyone has as far as restructures is concerned. So, I mean, we know why, though. We know why, and whether or not we want to talk about it, we can say it though. Freaking Trent Baalke. Like, I mean, they got 43.9 million dollars in dead cap right now, as it currently stands, with Tyson Campbell being the main corporate, nearly $20 million. You got $15 million from Gabe Davis, $6 million from Darnell Savage and Colin Saunders, with another $2 million, and a loose change for a few other guys like Javon Foster. All these guys who are no longer on the roster, but they're giving a lot of the money that's being attributed to the 2026 cap is just going to those guys because it didn't work out, whether that's Ryan Nielsen's fault, whether that's Doug Peterson's fault, whether that's Trent Baalke's fault.
Whether it's the fact they couldn't stay healthy's fault. Like, I mean, I don't mean to throw shade at a UCF night like Gabe Davis or even Tyson Campbell, a guy who I've had pleasant times talking to, but that's what it boils down to. Is your best availability wasn't available all too many times, and now there's a butt ton of millions headed your way from this franchise. Thanks, Trent. No, not Jaguars United. Jason Trent meant Trent Baalke. Yeah, but he's just a Trevor hater. I'm not trying to say these are his fault with the contracts at all, anything like that.
So there's a few guys tonight, man, that we really want to talk about. Like, and it's not, and despite the fact that there are probably realistically 5 to 6 guys who we could discuss tonight, because I think folks aren't really having the conversation in depth, at least, about Antonio Johnson. being an extension candidate. I think that deserves to be discussed, and we will talk about that on Fridays.
I'm about to say.
Because it's all secondary. Friday's Duval Dive is going to be all about the secondary.
What we like to call Travis's late Christmas episode, by the way. My Valentine's Day gift.
Yes.
To Travis D.
Yes. So with any of these guys, like whether it's Brenton Strange, whether it's Parker Washington, who's the third guy we got tonight? Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, and Travon Walker. Duh. They could opt to structure. They could opt to like restructure the contracts or have an extension using those year-to-year like option bonuses, and that can keep their option and their cap numbers low for year one, so they'll be able to kind of amortize the rest of the contract throughout the remaining years. As long as Shad Khan is comfortable paying that money up front, sort of like the Philadelphia Eagles do every year on a year-by-year basis, you can do that, and you can create more 2026 cap space. But like we already talked about, we're going to talk about Monteric Brown. He is technically under contract until the start of the league year in March 11th. Actually, the Jaguars put the dates out early this week. We got the Pro Bowl games that just took place yesterday. Anybody who watched, I'm sure you enjoyed that barn burning affair and non-real football. That was great, right?
No shade thrown whatsoever.
Yeah. But yeah, the franchise tag window opens on February 17th. So February 17th through March 3rd, you're looking at, that's the timeline that the Jaguars could potentially activate the franchise tag should they deem, that's the necessary time. And March 3rd is the deadline to do that. Then the free agency period starts on March 9th. Those are some of the big dates. Again, March 11th being the start of the new year, the new league year, with those 2 days in between being the tampering period. I point that out just to say, we've already talked about the fact that Devin Lloyd on this past Duval Dive, and basically Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne are our two main options for the franchise tag, and Devin Lloyd is not really a real option, right? Like, I think we can kind of all come to agreements on that. Shout out John Shipley. Ship said something similar on the socials this week, and I want to make sure I give him a shout out too. Like all the guys in that media circle, all the guys in the media room that do the hard work. I want to make sure you guys get y'all flowers. Like Ship said, because the franchise tag is absolutely ridiculous, it would cost the same to tag Devin Lloyd as it would to tag Michael Parsons. And basically, he wrote this story on Jaguars on SI about why the Jaguars simply don't have the franchise tag as an option, as a real option for Devin Lloyd. I believe the number is like 29 million, 30 million, something like that.
So if they can't afford the 20 million that you and I were talking about the other day here on the Duval Dive, how on earth are they going to do that number, I think, is what we're coming to say.
Right. And that's the thing. It's an off-ball linebacker. You're never going to pay an off-ball linebacker the franchise tag number of that level. Like, again, that's not going to happen. So really your only true franchise tag option ends up being Travis Etienne at around that $14 million level. And I don't know that they would be willing to do that either. D-Rock said the same thing 2 weeks ago, which we talked about on,
of course.
Yeah, Mike DeRocco, ESPN, said something similar like that. That wouldn't be an option that the team would be looking to pursue. So we're here to kind of just talk about, now that we gotten the franchise guys out of the way, the franchise tag potential guys out of the way, the contract members out of the way.
I got to go to the comments for some of this. Like, for all the money that PJ won, PJ Brown 12 here in the comments, is like, let them all walk. Let them walk. Buster, Etienne, and Lloyd. Time to move forward with younger blood. You weren't even trying to do any sharing of the wealth or any redistribution. I want my money in bets. They can win their money somewhere else. That's what he's.
PJ acting like it's his money. Forget Shad. Like, go.
I mean, he is. He pays money at the gate. I get it, But and then we got we have Giovanni Reyes shouting out the Ravens. I love when we get fans outside of the Duval about in the room. And listen, I know there's another Reyes that's regularly in the comments as well. I don't know if there's a link. I'm just saying that I just want to shout it out. Preston PT Phone Home shouts out, if Lloyd doesn't re-sign Foyer? ? With Ventra likely stepping up, he's a great run defensive linebacker. Covering is iffy. I'll agree with that. If Foyer is good enough in coverage to not take the cap, Find a cover linebacker. Yeah, I mean, that's what the draft is for, theoretically. Granted, the Jags aren't necessarily draft strong in that way, as well as they have limited picks. It's an interesting conversation, or who knows, maybe one of these other newer guys they drafted this past year steps up. There's a lot of possibility there.
It's such a deep doggone draft for linebackers, running backs. Linebackers, running backs, safeties. Whew. It's a weird year because the Jaguars don't necessarily need another safety, but they could absolutely do that, and I think it would be beneficial. And I know we're going to get more into the draft season as this offseason goes on, but specifically in relation to linebackers, I would not be shocked, as we said on the Duval Dive Short just last week, if the Jaguars wrapped up this offseason having 3 new starting linebackers than what we saw in the 2025 season. I would not be shocked. I legitimately stand on that.
No, I listen, and as much as Jimmy Stones is looking for intangibly rich and being bold, you have to, it's on the board. I don't know that it happens, but it's on the board. Obviously, right. We think so. That's why we have a short about it. But yeah, there's a lot going on. But yeah, let's get into some of these other pieces too. Let's take a couple more on Devin Lloyd before we go. Preston did say he was asking about Foyer earlier, and then interested to see what early extensions happen. We'll get into that in a minute. Social Alky in the comments. I like Ventrell Miller as a replacement. He and Lloyd started the season as co-starters. Accurate. If they move on from Lloyd, they're going to ask Ventrell Miller to step up. I don't think that's a surprise.
Sure.
Yeah, and we'll leave that at that here, so we can get into this these other elements here that we're talking about tonight.
So it's so much easier to start on the defensive side of the ball. It just is, because if we're only talking about these 3 guys primarily, all right, cool. Travon Walker. Let's get into it. So I don't think you're not going to find very many people in Duval County that's going to argue that Travon Walker hasn't earned this contract. I think like whether or not you are a Hutchinson fan or Hutchinson stan, or you were someone who was like, all right, I'm going to give Travon Walker the time to kind of prove that he deserves to be that number 1 draft pick that he was, where he was drafted. Whoever that person may be, pointing elbows at you, Kyle. Like we can objectively say he has absolutely earned the right to be signed. And I mean, James Gladstone said something very similar at his end of year presser, like that Travon was basically the type of guy that they would want in the room moving forward, like the locker room and the way that he plays. And they're not going to hold his mid-season injury to his hand against him, because he did lose his snap share went down significantly in midseason. He wasn't the same for a few weeks as he tried to bounce back, only being able to use one hand. So overall, I think generally speaking, he has earned that right to grow with the Jacksonville Jaguars organization moving forward. The number matters though, right? Like Travon has a guaranteed $15.2 million 5th-year option right now in 2026. And if Jacksonville were to, extend him, then they can open up an additional $11 million of that 15 in 2026 alone. So Spot Track has the market value for Travon currently around a 5-year, $120 million contract extension, which puts him at basically just under $24 million a year. Right. They gave him age and stat comparisons to guys like George Karlaftis and Brian Burns. So for me, that was ironic, because I don't know if folks remember, but when Josh Hines-Allen signed his contract a few years ago, that was the template. The Brian Burns contract was the template to that contract. So now they're saying, all right, cool. Travon Walker is around Brian Burns or Karlaftis. And I'm like,
I would take Walker over Burns and Karlaftis today. I'll say that.
Ooh, you would take Walker today at those guys when they signed that first contract at that similar age. Okay. So then that puts Travon Walker at around 14th, I'm sorry, in pay for defensive ends. So again, we're looking at $24 million a year. That is basically right below Rashawn Gary, the guy who he's often compared against, which I thought was real funny. Actually, not even right, but like he's $100,000 below Rashawn Gary. And if you listen to T Wig Locked On Jaguars, he's been banging that drum literally since year 2 for Travon. Like that was the comp that he had for him, and that's about where he would be contract value wise. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. Like, can he make more than Karlaftis?
If you can get Travon Walker at a rate below Brian Burns, you're winning. You're winning. I can't see it any other way. I think 88, like where Karlaftis is at here on this chart, if you're looking on the podcast instead of the Duval Dive YouTube channel, that makes sense to me for that to happen. He makes a little bit more than Karlaftis. I'm down. I don't want to say he had a down year, but that Kansas City Chiefs defense had a down year overall, we'll say. Do I think he should get Max Crosby money? Maybe not that, but on or around, kind of that Brian Burns total value of his contract was right. Years 141. That feels a touch rich, but it's all about the structure of the deal as well.
Well, my thing, this is the fun part about this, because it's not just looking at Travon himself. Now you're not just looking at Travon, you're looking at Travon and the production of the overall room, right? So correct. If you do that, then we got to point out that results in 2 Jacksonville Jaguars defensive ends making top 15 money at the same time.
And that's tough.
Now we got Brian, again, you got Travon making what I have him at 14th. You have Josh Hines-Allen at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at 9th. Out of all defensive ends. So now you got the 9th and the 14th highest paid defensive ends making that type of money with non-game breaking production. And that's no shade at these guys, but that is saying objectively, we keep having to say, no matter if they have a top 5 defensive tackle at, in sacks in the mid-year with Eric Armstead, and still having another guy on the right side of him, not being a dominant defensive tackle, while still having Josh Hines-Allen on one side and still having Travon Walker on the other side. We're complaining as a fan base, as a collective base, that's not enough having those 2 guys. Now we're going to say we're going to pay both of these guys top 15 money with that same Eric Armstead right there, and we still need another guy to get the production. That makes it a hard conversation.
No, I hear all that, but there's a couple things I want to factor in. By the way, everything you've said is valid. This is not me questioning my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, but your part of the house in and of itself is already getting paid very low money with all the youth in the room. Okay. And I won't even bring up the dudes that didn't even get their shot yet because they were hurt all year, like the Caleb Bransaws and such. Right. The fact I don't look at it necessarily. It's an accurate thing to point out when you bring in, hey, these 2 guys are getting paid this way. Big amongst the league, but I think the context of the room, going back to the same point, matters. The linebacker room is relatively cheap if you're letting Devin Lloyd walk. The defensive back room is relatively cheap now that you've unloaded the Tyson Campbell contract and have so much youth in the room. Will we have to have a conversation at some point about Montaric Brown? Hey, listen, like you said, that's coming this weekend. But it's hard for me. You make it a problem of the reason why you're stuck in that space isn't because Travon Walker's getting extended. It's because you've already extended Josh Hines-Allen.
Yes.
That's the problem.
So you're saying you can't get that money back. It is what it is. Whatever you do with that contract in the next 2 years, that's a whole different conversation. But that should not sway you, or that should not stop you from signing Travon at this point. Am I fully?
Also, if you don't strike now, he's just going to get more expensive. Period.
Oh no, I mean I don't disagree with that either. Like I don't think he's shown you enough to know that he belongs to be in the room, and from that perspective, you probably got to sign him. Yeah, and I agree with you too.
It's a thing we can't account for it. No, you're asking. Listen, you're just being a good co-host and asking a question because it's a good concern. Yeah, listen,
we can move from Travon. I thought that was going to be the easiest one, and I actually didn't. It was only interesting because of the fact that they were going to be spending that kind of money on the defensive ends and still saying we still also need another defensive tackle to make these guys like truly pop.
I think you do that with the youth, though. I think, and listen, I'm spoilering some of my stuff that's going to happen here throughout these draft evaluations that we do, and some of these fun observations and exercises we have with upcoming guests, whoever it is. I'm just going to assume one of them is Jamal St. Cyr, but dudes like that and others that'll jump on the show and do shows and picks with us. You better bet I'm going to pound table for fat guys again. but it may not be on the offensive side. That's the cliffhanger. Which side of the ball is Kyle going to draft the fat man to open up the draft for the Jags this year? Anyway, let's move on.
So I mean, next up we got the Brenton Strange conversation, and again, I think folks are going to land here right around what I think they like. Everyone seems to love Brenton Strange, just like everyone seems to love Travon Walker. So I assume that everyone's going to just be like, "Yep, sign him, of course." Sight unseen, no one knows. Like re-sign him early versus later.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, of course, sign them. These guys they're all under contract. This is not a conversation of whether or not they're going to be on the team. This is simply a conversation about signing them now or waiting to figure out what we're going to do with the room, or waiting to figure out what we're going to do surrounding that person, or allowing them to earn it. Maybe we just want to see them do it again just to confirm that they are who we thought they were, if that makes sense. So like Brenton Strange, he's also entering a contract year in 2026, and he's coming off a career high 60 catch, 540-yard season.
Oh, look, another career high with Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback. But please tell me again how he's overrated. Daniel Jones, woo!
I wish they used him more. I legitimately wish Brenton Strange was used like a Laporta.
I think they would have if he wasn't hurt, right?
I mean, even in the games that he was there, I was always like a little bit out.
No, true.
Jacoby Myers just proved to me, his presence proved to me that they should have been using Brenton Strange a lot more in the games that he was there. No, because his success rate, I was saying it even in the games when Brenton Strange is only getting 3 targets early in the season. Like, I'm like, every time they throw the ball to that dude, something good happens. Every time they throw to that dude, he don't drop the ball. He's in the right spot. He's a safety blanket. Why are they not throwing in the ball more? Why are they giving this guy 10 targets and they're giving Brenton Strange 3? Like, I thought that throughout the whole season. So it was great to see it come to fruition later. But I think that they could have found their footing in the passing game earlier on in the season had they continued to pepper him just a little bit more. So that career high 60 catches, I'm here for. I just wish they could have really platformed that guy, and he could have been like a 2024 Laporta out in Detroit. And Spot Track, I mean, they have him listed as a 4-year, $48 million contract if we were on the open market. So that's what they kind of estimate his extension to be. $12 million a year. Strange currently has a $2 million cap hit on the last year of this deal. So it depends on how the contract would be structured. I mean, Correct. That's always how it goes. But that 4-year, $48 million contract, if that's accurate, it's going to likely be somewhere around his current cap number, add maybe $1 million to that. So it's not going to kill your salary cap as far as that's concerned.
And the tight end rate, the rate for a going tight end at Strange's level isn't super huge. Yeah, you're right about that. I would apply, and you'll forgive me, this is my 49er bias getting into it here. I would apply the Deebo Samuel defense. The main reason why the Niners did not re-sign Deebo Samuel at the number he wanted and why he ended up a Jet / Commander in the first place. I said what I said, Travis. Is because of propensity for injury. Am I calling Brenton Strange injury prone? No. But what I am looking for is more production this year. And if he stays on the field more, then we'll have that serious conversation of making him among the more top paid tight ends in the league. I think this isn't like Travon Walker where he's an established star and you're trying to you're paying now like the Jags did with Trevor Lawrence, so you don't have to pay even more later. God, how much money than CJ Stroud cost himself this past playoff series? Am I right? But yeah. So with all that in mind, I think Brenton Strange is one of those wait and see type guys. And if he ends up balling out, so you got to pay more to keep him at a tight end rate, I think that's a good calculated risk.
Okay. That's a hard one for me.
It is.
I think I'm generally with you as far as that. Brenton Strange is going to have to wait because it's weird. Because and I think I even misspoke earlier because I think I said 60 catches and it was actually 60 targets. And I'm realizing that only when I'm looking at it, I'm like, dang, it was 46 catches for that 540 yards because the average is over 10 yards a carry, 10 yards a catch. All that to say,
if he were on the field more, he would have gotten 60 catches. That's all you were thinking.
And there's a career high in targets and a career high in receptions. Nevertheless, the points still remained the same. But overall, to your point, he only played 12 games this season. He played 17 last year, and in his first year, when he wasn't getting many snaps behind Evan Ingram, he only played 14 games that season. So from a health perspective, I don't disagree with you that you want to see him have a healthy season for that purpose, and you also may not necessarily want to pay him immediately, knowing that you don't necessarily have to, but it's a tight end. That's the part that sucks. It's the tight end market. It's not a crazy market. Like you're only talking about $12 million per year, and he has what did I say? It was a $2 million cap hit this year, so that puts him at 11th in the NFL, bro. Like you're not talking huge money. 11th in the NFL ties him with Dalton Schultz, and it's $10,000 a year below Jonnu Smith. Like we're not talking huge money for a tight end of that caliber, who we were just talking earlier last season as being literally one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. And that's before we're talking about the passing game stuff that you and I just talked about, Sam. We were pissed off about the fact that they weren't giving him more targets because I think he could have been able to prove, if he were on a different team with maybe a different surrounding cast and a different offensive situation, that he could have been able to prove that he's a legitimate beast in the receiving game. So I think he's just a guy who just hadn't had the opportunities. But if you're in a different situation, I think he'd be your next Mark Andrews, your next, I don't know, Pat Fewermouth or whoever else. I don't know.
Yeah, I see Freiermuth's numbers and I'm like, damn, they're paying him that. Maybe that's why we're having the conversation about Brenton Strange. Is we could pay him a fraction of that, he still gets a pay raise and the Jags retain him. Sure.
So you have no issues with praying. So where do you land? Not just extending Brenton Strange, but extending Brenton Strange before the start of this league year at that rate.
Yeah, and that's what I said too. Obviously, before I make any commitment, I'm going to have him, play another season out, finish out his contract. You've scheduled a butt ton. I'll tell you this: you give me a good production next year and you stay on the field, we'll have that conversation about you making Pat Freiermuth money, because you're definitely worth more than that.
All right, maybe I would not be against standing up in the room, and maybe I wouldn't resign him in the offseason. That's probably where I'm at.
Now, if their agent,
I know everyone loves Brenton Strange, but I'm not extending him before the season starts. Maybe I'll get that done before the bye week, because this is not Trent Baalke. We can negotiate during the season. It's okay.
Correct. And I'll even add this: if his agent comes in and has a shall we say, front-loaded extension in mind, or rather back-loaded extension, mid-loaded extension in mind, where early on he's relying on the bonus to keep him in the room, so to speak, I'm good with that. A contract that he could sort of play into, for lack of a better way. I don't think that'll happen. But, at this day and age, both sides benefit from waiting to see what they can do out there and show,
I mean, from that perspective, I'm sure Brenton Strange wants to bet on himself in year 2 in this offense.
Exactly.
He's making more money. And from the team perspective, they want to keep the cost low. But on the other side of the equation, they probably this is where it gets weird. I'm not gonna lie to you, because Parker Washington is going to be his own conversation. That's going to be a little bit fun, a little bit interesting. Mm-hmm. But Brenton he's shown his chops as a run blocker. He's been dominant in that fashion. Like, the only question that we're having is about his one moderately fluke injury that seems to be the right kind of guy in the locker room, seems to be a dominant guy in the run blocking, seems to be a dominant guy in the pass, receiving, just not necessarily getting the targets, but being one of those high success rate guys similar to your Jacoby Myers.
Yep.
But then we still have that little angle of the conversation, like we're talking about Travis Etienne. What did we just say last week about Travis Etienne? That extension or that re-signing becomes more difficult because they now shown that they're just one cog in the machine. He's just shown he's just one of the guys. And do you need to spend your free agent dollars, basically, your high dollars, your second contract dollars on guys who are just cogs? Or do you think these are guys who are core guys, glue guys that you need to have on the roster? I do kind of believe based on that framing, based on that sales pitch, that Brenton Strange is probably closer to being one of those glue guys. And from that perspective, maybe I do got to resign him, if that makes sense. Like, I'm selling myself.
I'm about to double down with you and say, if you're using the cog in the machine defense, which is a great one because I came up with it, he said modestly, but I would make the strong argument that Brenton Strange is a bigger cog in the Liam Cohen machine than Travis Etienne is.
Well, sure. I think that's very fair. And again, impacting both the run game and the pass game. They just didn't use them enough in the pass game. So, dang it. I think I just sold myself on the fact that Brenton Strange needed to be resigned this offseason, not even waiting for the season starts. Damn.
I'm such a good salesman. I've been sold myself.
Yeah, I didn't start there, but I think I just ended there, unfortunately.
Sunstain agrees. Strange is already a staple of this offense.
There you go.
Reyes mentioned something very pragmatic here. I will say the scariest thing of all, falling in love with all these guys and wanting them signed, is that they were also the same guys who are also part of the 4-win team. I know, Reyes, I don't think that's fair, because all it shows is that the correct decision was made by management to let those coaches walk. That's where it's at. A point Preston made that I want to kind of bring up here, which is a factor in the falling in love with these guys piece. It's weird. New regime building through the draft, but Super Bowl contenders this year at the same time. That's tricky for Gladstone. And whether it's on the strength of a true anomaly throughout the year of how drunk the NFL was or not, it's a weird place you are with expectations driving this franchise the way that it is.
And that's it. And that's the problem. It's the juggling of those contracts, the juggling of where everything is going to kind of land. As far as, I'm not even going to ruin this point, because I'm not even the point I was about to make. I think it would be a better point to make when we just have this conversation talking about this Parker Washington extension. So I'm going to save what I was about to say just so we can have this Parker Washington wide receiver room conversation.
Look at you teasing. Anyways, go ahead. Let's get in.
No. I almost said something. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know what? I'm gonna save that, because I think this is worth talking about Parker. All right. So Parker Washington, he is,
Speaking of falling in love with guys, Parker out there somewhere.
That's it. Parker down there somewhere, and he's gained the hearts and the minds of all of the Duval devout, including Sir William Lawrence Waffle House Willie. Now, in 2026, Trevor Lawrence, goodness gracious, got me thinking about Trevor. Parker Washington has a $3.6 million cap hit. This is his contract year, and Spot Track has him projected as a 4-year, $56 million extension. That's $14 million a year. Now, I know that sounds like huge numbers, but let's also remember De'Ami Brown did get a 1-year, $10 million contract. So $10 million is probably your middle to low tier wide receiver 2 to / wide receiver 3 fund. Like, that's what you're paying for wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3 on the open market these days, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. So I know we say
he get
$1 like, Yeah.
Well, here's the part about that, and here's where everybody needs to be careful. First of all, I appreciate you. I wouldn't be surprised if you got a call from Parker Washington's agent saying thank you, selling Parker Washington as hard as you did right there. Because can we please remember, for 30 seconds, the top 2 receivers for the Jags allegedly were both compromised in some way, shape, form, or fashion, in the form of Travis Hunter being hurt and BTJ going through various psychological issues or reducing his numbers early on in the season. Speaking of things that made the NFL drunk this year, am I right? This unpredictable nature of things has set up an opportunity for Parker Washington to strike where the iron is hot. I wonder how, I'm sure he's under contract, I understand that, but is he being actively shopped by a Jimmy Stone's front office that needs dem picks from saying F dem picks?
I mean, that's a very interesting question, because I'm not sure what his value is right now. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying I literally don't know. I can't guess.
We don't know what his value would be. But what we do know is it's higher now, Travis, than it's ever been. That's
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. But if you're only getting, like, I don't know what the pick would be. If you're getting a 4th round pick, this isn't even a real conversation. If you're getting a 3rd round pick, I still don't know that they'd give up on him, because
I think somebody might be.
But it's a conversation.
2 out of him, possibly.
But I don't even know if that's possible. I don't know. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know. Maybe I'm maybe I'm flipping. If you can give me a second and I give you a fourth, that might be a conversation.
Yo,
Like,
hey,
that's different.
heartbeat, baby, heartbeat.
Now that's a different conversation. But here talking about extensions, just to be clear, if they choose to add void years and restructure and structure of
when they choose to add
extension,
yes,
yeah. His cap number would also be real minimal, like
Correct.
similar to the Travon Walker conversation. Like that, if it's $14 million per year, that would land him at 28th of all NFL wide receivers. So, I mean, again, we're talking $14 million a year. That's putting him just above Khalil Shakir and right below Cooper Kupp. That's the range. And again, not Cooper Kupp, talking old Cooper Kupp. We're talking Cooper Kupp these days.
Kupp. Yeah, but let's be careful.
These days, Cooper Kupp. Like, again, he's making less than Christian Kirk is in Houston. And that's what I mean to say. Like, so this is a reasonable range. If you're talking about an established guy in Jacksonville, we're bringing someone in like Parker Washington. I don't think folks would even blink. Folks would probably be clapping, honestly. Like, that's a solid signing. But it's after you signed the Jacoby Myers contract that makes this a little bit squirrely. It's after you have Travis Hunter, who's a top 5 pick. So that means, so Travis Hunter's right there. So that means you got Travis Hunter, who's 33rd in the NFL in wide receiver contracts.
But he's playing 2 positions. Again, a different conversation.
So I guess you can say technically only half of his contract belongs to the wide receiver room. If that's how is that how the numbers work?
Something like I don't know exactly. It's weird. And I'm glad you have Jacoby Myers in there for context too. But there's I'm gonna throw the chart up one more time. Just look at some of the players that are here. I would take Parker Washington today over, God, no disrespect to our boy Christian Kirk, but I would take him over Christian Kirk right now. Jerry Jeudy for sure.
Calvin Ridley way up there.
Well, I mean, we've taken
$23 million a year
at shots at Calvin Ridley, and I mean, we don't take shots at Cortland Sutton, but I'd take Parker Washington over him today. You know
what? No,
I said what I said.
And
I would take him. I would take Parker Washington over Debo today because Debo Samuel misses so much time.
No, I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm just not a Cortland Sutton guy. If you want to tell me I'm the problem, that's cool. But
that was the only one I pushed. That was the only one I pushed back on. Everybody else, I'm locked up with you.
I'm bet you that's 80% success rate. There you go. Come on.
So I mean, the market value for it sounds right for Parker Washington, to be clear. It's more about the rest. It's honestly more about the rest of the wide receiver room. Like there's 2 sides of this argument, and I want to be real and say this. Like social, I can say Kyle tripping.
I'll take it. Hey, listen, I don't get them all right, man.
Somebody else said it. All right, cool. He tripping. Oh no. But this is where it gets a little squirrely. It gets a little fun for me because there are 2 sides of this argument, and I want to be able to make both arguments. All right, I am on board with this not being my damn money, right? So this ain't my money. My last name's not Khan. Like, so I don't care how much he has to spend to make this work. We have never seen Trevor Lawrence have a dominant, like he's just an incredible wide receiver core. And the argument that I could easily make, and I made this argument with PT Phone Home in the Duval Dive YouTube comments just earlier today. Hey, maybe it's beneficial just to say, I need Trevor Lawrence to have the best wide receiver core possible. And I need to see elite Trevor Lawrence, not like good or above average or, just solid. I need to see top 2 quarterback Trevor Lawrence. And that means giving him his Tyreek Hill, giving him his Mike Evans, giving him, all these guys combined at the same time and having no excuse and having this most explosive offense ever. That's one argument to make. And I'm not necessarily going to argue against it.
It's one made by a man who's under 300 pounds. Okay. Because you and I both know the priority over Parker Washington should be improving the rest of the offensive line or figuring out if Cole Van Lannon is that.
This is the other side of the argument. This is the other side of the argument. Hey, man.
300-pound side of the argument. That's right.
The over 300-pound side of the argument. Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, like Newton's law of motion. So folks want to be able to pay the quarterback, pay Brenton Strange, pay Parker Washington while also paying Jacoby and the offensive line. Hell, Cole Van Lannon just got paid, right? And they're already tight to the cap. Like, that's a hell of a lot of tough decisions to be made, right? And a lot of folks don't seem to be wanting to make them. And that's where this thing gets weird. Like, again, Sunstain says re-sign Parker now. If he's a free agent, he'll run up a bag. And that's a good thing for the Jaguars, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't they want comp picks? If he's a free agent, that means that.
Well, you're going full 4D chess on that. First of all, I love it.
Yeah.
The second thing is also to the point made. If you're thinking Parker Washington is a long-term asset, where Sunstain is correct, and it's kind of the point I alluded to earlier. You extend now because he's only getting more expensive, right? Yeah, Social Alkian got you back again with comp picks. Yeah.
That's right, comp pick. If you could get rid of Parker Washington and let him play out his contract, I'm not saying you're trying to get rid of him. I'm saying if you allow him to play out his contract and get the bag, secure the bag, I'm happy for him. At that point, I'm like, hey, man, good job. We love what you did for the team. We appreciate you so much. I know we couldn't make it work here, but at the end of the day, you're going to get paid and you're going to enjoy your life. And hey, man, we still love you. You're always welcome to come back if you want to take it, for a hometown discount. But for the most part, go grab that money.
Just don't whip our ass too hard if you play us. That's all.
Just please go out of the division. That's all I care about. Like that.
At a conference would be nice too, frankly. I mean,
Right. I don't understand the problem with that. Sometimes it's okay. That's the Devin Lloyd argument all day. I mean, we love what you did for us while you were here. Now go get paid, man. Enjoy your life, young man. Like, and then in the verse of the lady in the press conference, on Lynn Jones, like, enjoy. You did so well, man. We're so proud of you. Good job.
And Sunstain makes a point that we didn't discuss, but is also very well applied. The special teams impact as well should be coerced here. Yeah.
Before his injury, like, you're talking to a guy who was definitely top 2, top 3 punt returner in the NFL. And that does have a significant value, man. But again, you got to make choices, because everybody keeps saying pay everybody, but you are also $9 million over the cap as we're talking. But you're talking about paying everyone.
You're going to get rid of that De'Ami Brown thing. That's going to be fine. I'll save some money.
Okay, cool. That's $10 million. Where the rest of that change going to come from? Going to find it under sofa cushions? What's happening?
I was going to say couch cushions. Yeah, get your gloves on. Start feeling around, buddy.
So if you're looking at cap numbers, right, like in 2025, this was entering 2025 for Warren Sharp. The most expensive wide receiver rooms of the year were the Bengals, coming into the season at basically $58 million. You have the Bucks at $50 million and the Titans at $47 million.
You mean?
I show you that because, again, this is based on cap hits, not necessarily the contract averages, and as far as that's concerned. Right. I show you that to show you, if you're talking about extending Parker Washington, you're looking at a projected starting pass catchers group of around $48 million, just looking at the wide receivers, $60 million if you're including Brenton Strange, because that's what we're basically saying. If you're extending him, that's what you're looking at. Jacoby Myers is making $20 million a year. That's wide receiver 25. Parker Washington, $14 million. He's at wide receiver 28. Travis Hunter on his rookie contract because he was a top 5 pick. He's $11 million. He's a wide receiver 33. Brian Thomas is still on his rookie contract, but it's a small number because of where he was drafted, back way down at wide receiver 56 at only $3 million a year. And we already established that we would then sign Brenton Strange to a top 11 contract at $12 million. That's a reasonably hefty price tag as far as the wide receiver group is concerned. It's not terrible because, again, that's not cap hits. You can structure it where it hits later and everything else. But you're going to have to start hitting on draft picks immediately because that's not nothing, bro. So that's kind of where I'm a little bit shook on this one, trying to figure out where to make that.
That's a sobering number. And listen, my initial reaction of, oh, my gosh, to Parker Washington appears to be absolutely correct at this juncture, simply because of the surrounding pieces. I completely forgot how expensive, I shouldn't say expensive, how highly valued Jacoby Myers' contract is, but I think rightly so. I think that's the presence that Liam Cohen wants in the building. That's his guy. I get it. But that might make Parker Washington more expendable here. That's all I could say about that. And Reyes says it as good, if not better than I can. It's never good if you want to be the Bengals. I mean, what was the number?
They don't got the money to. They don't have the money to stop anyone. That's the thing.
Yeah,
exactly. But again, I never want to be told that I'm someone playing one side of the fence on these arguments, because there's two sides of this thing.
Yeah.
Teams like Justin Jefferson is averaging $35 million a year, right? Because he's that good of a talent.
He's just
because he's that one guy. We just said the Jacksonville Jaguars receiver core was around, if you averaged it out, around $48 million a year. So the combined room for the Jaguars would be just a little bit more expensive than Justin Jefferson himself. I'm not saying that they have that same impact, but I'm saying if you have multiple, number one / high level potential number twos, I think there's a reasonable argument that you can make and say that this is actually a reasonable decision. I'm just trying not to say it, I'm all in. But overall, I probably don't know if I can sign Parker Washington to a $14 million contract right now with the rest of that team, with the rest of that roster, based on just being able to bring in a rookie. I can easily just do that, save a little money there.
And this is my favorite point here so far on this, with Social Alki mentioning if Parker outplayed his rookie contract, that's great, but he should be allowed to be a starter in another roster. Nice. And I don't know that happens today when everyone's healthy. That's the point I was trying to make earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So as it stands, I'm sitting here like, all right, Travon, yeah, you gotta sign him early. You gotta sign him for this first game of this season. Like, that's where I'm probably landing. Brenton Strange, yeah, I feel like you gotta sign him. And that's despite the fact that, like, I think he is a glue guy in that way. And then you get to Parker Washington, and with the rest of that wide receiver room, I just don't think I don't think it's something that you can do. Not as it stands right now. And again, we still got to talk about Antonio Johnson. We still got to talk about Monteric Brown, who is on this roster until March 11th.
Say something for Friday, champion.
Yeah. That'll be Friday's show. But in the meantime, on those three guys, that is where I'm landing. Like, again, I don't know if you guys disagree, please let me know. If you disagree, hey, you let me know too. Like, but that's where I'm at.
Well, and I'll say this, like, now that we've scared the bejesus out of everybody, Preston makes, I think, what is the biggest point and a fantastic overall point for you Duval divers and Duval Devon here in the comments. That's a crazy receiver room going from, again, no disrespect to our guy, Kirk, but going from Kirk as the number one receiver to this in 1 year. Woo, that's a hell of a statement. He's not wrong, folks.
That's not wrong. Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., and Brenton Strange. It's not bad.
Fascinating.
Not bad.
I mean, we're probably going to talk more later on about BTJ. That's a very compelling statement. His lack of salary command at current is going to be a big factor in that conversation.
That's a whole conversation right there. BTJ just in and of himself. Jesus.
But so with all that in mind, we've walked through some of the business here of the Jacksonville Jaguars. There'll be more on Friday, but this upcoming Sunday, the big game, the Super Bowl taking place. I'm just Travis. The people want to pick who you got.
Oh man, so I already went on the NFL show. Shout out Pat / Radius. Duval Dives favorite commenter Radius over in the UK. I know he's asleep right now because they're like 5 hours time difference. But and he asked us to give our Super Bowl predictions. So yeah, like I think the Seahawks are going to win it, and I think they're going to win it handily. My prediction on his show was 27-10. I think I'm going to adjust that though, just a little bit. I think the Seahawks are going to score 27. I just think it's going to be like 27-13. I still think they win by double digits. I don't think it's necessarily going to be close. I have been waiting for that other Sam Darnold game to that other Sam Darnold shoe to drop, just because I kind of just feel like it's got to happen eventually, and it hasn't happened in the playoffs yet.
Yeah.
But the Drake May, I don't think that he's going to have the success against this sort of defensive front, just like similar to Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Those guys who try to scramble, they don't generally have success against this front four and the front seven. So I don't know that he has the day that they need to have to kind of win against this sort of a defense. And also on the other side of the ball for the Seahawks, they actually have a pretty dang dominant offense. So like, I don't think that's a good combination of factors.
When it comes, it's fascinating because who was it that did the halftime show recently? Was that Kendrick Lamar? And
Oh yeah,
there's
the all black Super Bowl halftime show.
hey, I like
HBCU.
listen, I liked it. Okay, I don't want to hear about that all black stuff. I know I'm a day walker, but come on, I thought it was good, man. Anyways, I say all that to say, am I allowed to say day walker on the show? Anyways, with all that being said, I think the only Drake that's going to get beat worse than Drake did by Kendrick Lamar is Drake May in this game. This defensive tackle core is still the most underappreciated thing in the NFL, and I hope they crush him senseless so we get the defensive MVP we should have gotten when the Bengals lost to Aaron Charles Donald that year where John Matthew Stafford got his. Obviously, that won't happen because the cowards won't vote for fat men to get the Super Bowl MVP if they earn it. I said what I said, Travis. The punchline is this, though. I think Drake may struggle heavily and mightily against the Seahawks defense. I'm not here to say that the Pats defense is bad. I'm just saying that there's a balanced offense they're battling, and any good defense struggles most when you can establish balance. I think Sam Darnold, his words, not mine, taking lessons from Brock Purdy playing point guard at quarterback has been invaluable. And the irony is he's going to win the game, winning it the way that J.J. McCarthy did. See what I did there? His former Minnesota Viking teammate did at Michigan, winning a national championship. He's not going to be asked to do a lot. Just throw the ball big when it's time. Nigba takes it to the house, does his thing, potential non-quarterback MVP winning style, potentially getting a Super Bowl MVP as a receiver. Good odds on him, by the way, if you want to check that out. Maybe Bearman will say something about that. I'll text him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Seahawks all day, though. What you actually came up with a score. I think the Seahawks break 30, so give me 33, and I'm going to go Pats get to 20. I'll say 20. Well, yeah, we'll say 20.
High-scoring game. Yeah.
Higher than most Super Bowls, I'll grant you. You come out slow. I think there's going to be some turnovers. I think the Seahawks capitalize on some turnover points because I think Drake may make a lot of mistakes. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm sorry. But, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so Zenith says, I mean, so many resources spent at wide receiver, it better be better. I mean, I think that's the hope, I mean, right?
You would say.
Yeah, that's got to be the hope, right? Like, of course. And then Reyes says, I hope we don't give up on BTJ. I feel like if they keep Parker, they move on from BTJ, in my opinion.
Ooh, more on that later in the week, Reyes.
Very interesting. So yeah, PT gave his score of a 31-13. I mean, you gotta, yeah, all right.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with him, but you know, I want to see PJ's pick, see how much money he wins on that. That's
yeah, wherever PJ bets, I'm following. That's it. I'm trailing.
That's right.
That's it, man. That man, he's a gambling. Yeah, he's a gambling that dude. So, but I think that's most of the Jaguars. That's most of the gambling on the Jaguars, though.
See, he's not gambling, he's winning. There's a difference. Anyways,
I mean,
Travis, tell the world where you can be found, my guy.
And of course, bigcatcountry.com, most importantly. Like, and if you listen to us here on the Duval Dive on YouTube or on the audio side, please click that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like, again, we appreciate you guys getting us to that's 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube side. The Believe podcast stuff is already blowing up. So, I mean, we appreciate you there also. And if you haven't followed us on TikTok, I mean, go ahead. Do that. Do it right there.
Duval Dive on TikTok.
Please.
Tell your kids. We're family friendly here on the show. That's all right.
But yeah, I mean, we're finally monetized on the YouTube side, on the podcast side. And that's because you guys continue giving us these comments, giving us these things to talk about. I mean, this again is a mailbag episode. That's not really a mailbag episode. These are still your questions, because if you got something you want to talk about, let us know. We'll build an episode around your ideas about what you were speaking about in your Duval households, because this is a show what you talk to us and we just talking back. So we appreciate you guys. Travis B. Holmes on all the socials.
Yes. We talk not at you, I believe, is how you like to tell the people, right, Travis?
That's fair. We talking with you, not at you. Like, unlike your other shows, they're just trying to give you all this information. We're gonna give you the information, but then we're also gonna hear what you got to say back. And if you're saying something that's dumb, we're gonna call you dumb. But then we're gonna talk about it, right? Because I think that's reasonable. That's a barbershop right there, man. So
I don't even mind that Social Alki told me I was tripping earlier. He's talking with me, not happy. It's all right. Man, listen,
and you was tripping too, but it's okay.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the trippin' student of the game. Find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret, as well as my podcasting with the Night Shift podcast covering UCF football and basketball, as well as my work with the Orlando Magic. Shouts to my dude, RJ Saunders. by the way, of the OP. Explain why you dumb too. Oh, that was man. Listen, I'm not even going to try to top that. So, for all you guys in the comments, you Duval divers, thanks you for making it fun and making me belly laugh the way I do with my personal champion here, Travis D. Holmes. Until next time, my friends, class dismissed.